Good day, everybody. Welcome in. Welcome to Hoopsville. I'm your host, Dave McHugh. Sorry for our delay. It's been about 2 weeks since we've been on the air. That was not planned. Welcome to the show. If you want to interact with us, you can do so via social media. You can find us on Twitter/X at D3Hoopsville, Instagram at D3Hoopsville. You can also find us on Threads, though honestly, we don't keep as in touch with that one as we should. We know that. We got to do better. We also are on Facebook, facebook.com/D3Hoopsville. Or just /Hoopsville there. I'm sorry. There's no D3 with that one. And you can always email us, hoopsville@d3sports.com. That's hoopsville@d3sports.com. It has been 2 weeks. We've had Thanksgiving, so we're still going to talk some turkey today. That was the schedule and the name of the show when we planned it for last Monday. All the guests are from last Monday. We just cycled them in today. I took the computer to the shop, and I may be calling this group, see if they want to be an advertiser on the show, because they keep doing all the work on the computers. We took it in Monday the 17th, right after Hoopsville. We got the archive taken care of, the podcast, all that, then ran it out to the shop, said, listen, this thing ain't working right. It's something, I keep losing things, I can't connect things, it's really acting weirdly, I can't update certain items that need to be updated. I'm pretty savvy at these things, but I'm in over my head, or I'm just getting tired and ridiculous on this. So I took it in, figured it'd be there a few days. Almost a week later, it's still in the shop. They don't have an answer, so I go and they say, but you might as well come and pick it up. We don't think it's anything major, so I come and pick it up. It won't boot up. So he took it right back, and that's what ended up with Monday's show being called off. Because I thought about pushing to Tuesday. We didn't even get it back on Tuesday. In fact, I didn't get it back until this past Saturday. They still don't know 100% what's wrong, but we kind of have an idea, and we're working to fix that. But we're on air, and everything's working today. So that's the good news. And some things that I couldn't update have been updated. So apologies for that, but here we are. Got a good show on tap today. We're going to talk to the hot-flying Muskies of Muskingham. They are out to a 6-0 start in men's basketball. Best start, really the fourth time in program history they're off to a 6-0 start. I think the last time was 1968, if my memory serves. We'll double check that before the segment. Their best start ever is 8-0. Can they achieve that? Well, OAC play may throw a monkey wrench into the Muskies' plans. We'll talk to Nathan Wahle about that. Shenandoah women's basketball is playing well. The ODAC has got a few teams to keep an eye on. Randolph-Macon, because they certainly have been a good program in women's basketball. Washington Lee, because they probably have one of the best players. Well, they do have one of the best players in Division III. She's going to shatter every single record at that school and in the Old Dominion Athletic Conference by the time her career is done. And she's already kind of shattered a lot of those records already. But Shenandoah is doing pretty well. It already knocked off a couple of top 25 teams. Lost, interestingly enough, to Christopher Newport in a low-scoring affair. Maybe an example of what Christopher Newport can do to teams even if they're not playing their top best. So we'll talk to Melissa Smeltzer-Kraft about the Shenandoah Hornets women's basketball program. Then we'll head up to Scranton. They are the first of three teams to knock off D1s in exhibition play for the D3s, real games for the D1s as Scranton upended Pitt. Of course, you'll also remember Carnegie Mellon knocked off transferring to D3 St. Francis. And then Johns Hopkins absolutely steamrolled Morgan State. Of course, we already talked to Johns Hopkins already this season. So we'll talk to Ben O'Brien about his Royals, the opportunity to play and beat Pitt. Maybe that opportunity is now closed. But just how good are the second-ranked Royals? And especially in comparison to an absolutely juggernaut of a team in the number one NYU Violets. And then we head to Endicott. And yes, the tote board has a smiley face. We ran out of O's. But the Endicott Gulls men's basketball team's off to a pretty good start, including a win over Nichols in early conference action. What is this Endicott team all about? Kevin Bettencourt joins us to talk about his squad and what's going on in New England. So there's your rundown for today. Plus, we'll introduce what used to be called the Hoopsville Rant. I've rebranded it to Dave's 2 cents, because why not? We will talk about scheduling and what new coaches tend to do to scheduling and why something's got to be stopped or fixed or resolved or whatever. We'll talk about that later in the show, and I'll briefly touch on the challenges that football had with web streaming, something I would hoping to touch on last Monday, and how it was mostly resolved this weekend, despite what many people think is the real reason for it. Long story short, it's not the real reason. Doors opening because the mascot of Hoopsville, Tucker, has entered. His brother Andy's home. He's not real, my son Andy. No school, but Tucker hasn't found him. He hears my voice, so he has come down and opened the door. Welcome in, Tucker. He is hanging out below us now, and we'll see how long he stays today. But again, if you want to interact with us, you have many ways to do so. Email, Twitter, etc. Feel free to chime in. Want to mention the fundraising membership opportunities. It's going to come to a head tonight. Hoopsville memberships to us donations at buymeacoffee.com/Hoopsville. In fact, David Grant just chimed in about 10 minutes or so ago and joined the squad. Appreciate you, Dan. More like 20 minutes ago. Also, some others have donated to the cause. We have several members already. We appreciate it. Here's the trick. Tonight, the Top 25 Double Take will hit the air for the first time for members only. We will be live at 8:30 tonight with men's and women's. On the men's side, Pat Coleman and Bob Quillman will be joining to talk about their debatables, their deep dives, and their dubious selections. And on the women's side, we'll have Scott Peterson and Gordon Mann. That's coming up tonight. That is only viewable live to members of Hoopsville, of Role Player and higher. You also get to see my top 25 ballot. I finally figured out the quirks and got my preseason and first week ballot released over Thanksgiving to all of those who are. And if you join, you can then gain access to that. And I will release my second week ballot tomorrow, is the plan, to those who are on there. You help us and we help you is pretty much how this works. This helps keep Hoopsville rolling and doing well into the future after 23 seasons. It gives you a chance to get extra content. Later this month, as it is December 1st, we'll be launching the Off Court podcast, which is a long-form podcast with individuals who are either alumni, currently involved in Division III, somehow associated with Division III basketball, whatever the case may be. We'll be debuting that later this month as a podcast that is only available to members. If it does become public, it is at a significant time down the road. So there you go. If at all, by the way, I should say. Some of them may not get released at all. So we're going to play that by ear. So there you go. Lots going on. Next top 25 poll is today. I am in the middle of my ballot and looking forward to getting that finished up after the show. My number one's not going to change. It's Trinity. They are absolutely playing like a juggernaut. It is impressive to say the least. Looking forward to seeing just how good they may be in the long term, but they made a pretty good Union team look kind of average this past weekend. What I'm really curious about is going to be how the NESCAC deals with them, the Bantams, and we're going to have to wait a little while before that. Randolph-Macon looks pretty good as well. I think I saw some people tweet out they think it's just one team and then everybody else. I think Randolph-Macon's a little undersold at number 2, if that's how everybody is thinking about it, to be completely honest. And there's so many other good teams in Division III, but it's also tumultuous because you have so many teams who have lost or not lost, and they're good, right? Like Illinois Wesleyan lost this week to Stout. Well, I think Stout's a decent team, but I think Illinois Wesleyan's pretty good. I've got them in my top 10. I don't know if I move them out of my top 10. I already saw one ballot out there. I'm trying not to look at ballots that come out early so they don't influence me in any way. And that's why I don't release my ballot until after the poll comes out. Voter has them still at 4th. And their argument was, I still think they're good. And this gets to an argument I've made a lot of times. I've stuck with the number one team, even though they've lost. I'm not expecting teams, especially on the men's side, to go undefeated. And so if they lose to a really solid team, that doesn't mean, and they still look good, that doesn't mean I don't think they're still good. So it doesn't mean I still don't think of them as the number one team. So Trinity won. Randolph-Macon didn't play this past week. St. John's, La Crosse handled St. John's. I thought St. John's would be a decent team this year, but they lost by 15 to La Crosse. Redlands was idle this week. WashU had a trio of games and beat Wabash, Colorado College, and Rhodes. Illinois Wesleyan, as we mentioned, lost to Stout. Mary Washington, who's 7th, is Idle. Chicago, who is 8th, beat Rhodes and Colorado College. They were involved in that Wash U event. Emory and Hampton Sydney did not play. That's 9 and 10. Wesleyan lost to Farmingdale State. So that's, and by 2, came down to a buzzer beater opportunity for Wesleyan. Question becomes, is Wesleyan at 3 and 2 not as good as some of us pollsters think they are? I have them in the bottom half of my top 25 for the record. Or is Farmingdale State better than we thought they are? That's an interesting debate, to be sure. Calvin is 12th. They beat Heidelberg. Roanoke did not play at 13. Montclair, the rest of the top 25 didn't take a loss. Montclair State, Virginia Wesleyan, Trinity, Texas, Oshkosh, Mount Union, WPI, TCNJ, Catholic, Tufts, Drew, Hood, and Whitworth. For the record, I am not voting for a handful of those teams. Not voting for Whitworth or Hood or Drew. I'm not voting for, I don't think I'm voting for Trinity, Texas. And I have some teams that are in the lower part higher, and I have some of the teams who are higher down lower. Receiving votes category, I am voting for Williams. They lost to Rhode Island College. That's going to make me change my mind, though they spanked Mass College 87-41. Cole lost to MSOE. Trine lost to Anderson. Wabash, as we mentioned, lost to Wash U. That's expected since they're in the receiving votes category. Stevens Point lost in a triple overtime thriller with North Park, 115-114. That was a heck of a game. I could not watch all of it, but I caught parts of it. And Hardin-Simmons is off to a rough start this season. They lost to St. Thomas, Texas, and Trinity, Texas this week, and they're 4-4. I voted Hardin-Simmons in the preseason. I did not vote for him last week. I think Matt Brackett's squad has got some figuring out to do, as it were. I'll be curious how that all plays out. Women's side, as we said, NYU is dominating. No surprises there. They are just a darn good team. It's stunning how well they play. They played 3 teams and beat them. John Jay 114-34, Colby Sawyer 115-42, Merchant Marine 102-70, and hats off to the Merchant Marine SID. Pointed out that in the past 21 months, that's the most points anybody has scored against NYU. NYU did put up 102. 3 games of 100 plus for NYU. Whitewater did lose to Calvin, who was receiving votes. Trinity lost to Smith. Smith's another darn good team. That was a game I had circled. Trinity is very good. Baldwin Wallace lost to John Carroll. Carroll was, of course, ranked ahead of him. La Crosse lost to Illinois Wesleyan. The two of them were basically side by side in the rankings. But then La Crosse also lost to DePauw, who is, I don't even think, receiving votes. Maybe they are. Where are they? No, I don't even think they're receiving votes. Wisconsin Lutheran lost to Loris. That surprised me a little bit. I know Loris is good, but I thought Wisconsin Lutheran was a little bit better. They lost by 3. Wash U lost to Illinois Wesleyan, who was ranked ahead of them again. East Texas Baptist lost to St. Thomas, Texas. That's an interesting result. They're now 7-1. Is ETBU. And Co lost to Carthage. Receiving votes, Shenandoah did lose to Christopher Newport. We noted that. Chicago lost to Carroll. Transylvania, I'm surprised some people are still voting for them. They're 3-2. I suspect Transylvania may completely run out of votes this week. E-Town defeated Messiah in double overtime. Messiah's 3-2. I think the same thing's going to happen to Messiah. These are teams that we're so used to voting for in the top 25s that are just not the same programs. By the way, Bates women's basketball, hats off to, I always forget how to say her last name. Forgive me here a second, folks. I did not call this one up fast enough, and I should have. Hang on a moment. There we go. Elsa Dalario. Sorry, I have to say it in my head before I go and say it, because it's not. She's Scheibel's, Adrian Scheibel's daughter, but she doesn't go by the Scheibel last name. Goes by her father's last name. She eclipsed 1,000 points in the last 2 weeks. Congratulations to her. She and her mom, one of just maybe 2, maybe more. We're not sure. Mom-daughter trios to score 1,000 points at the same school. I think we'll have them on a future Hoopsville talk about it. Scheibel's is always a great interview, and I'd love to talk to Elsa about her career at Bates. But congratulations to those two. Bates is rolling. beat New England 88-56 earlier this season. They're absolutely rolling. Bates is I got a text from a guy we'll have on our off-court podcast. You're going to be amazed by the reasons we have him on the show. He saw Bates play Huss, and he said they're just a juggernaut. He was really impressed with them. He knows his basketball. We're going to have him on. He is a D3 alum who is involved in a lot of other things. If you know me socially a little bit, a year ago you saw me following his treks. We'll be chatting with him in the future. And with that in mind, I got to take a break because coming up, I'm already a little bit behind schedule. We're going to start off our segments. Muskingham's going to be on the docket first. Nathan Wahle will join us to talk about his high-flying muskies, if muskies can fly. Shenandoah will join us to talk about the sting they're putting in the ODAC, or could put in the ODAC this season. Scranton will join us about how they walked into Pitt and walked out like royalty. You see where I'm going with this? Yeah. And then Endicott joins us to talk about how they're flying high as well, and with already a conference win under their belt against the tough Bison of Nichols. That's all coming up on Hoopsville. Don't forget to support us as well. We appreciate the support also from the Women's Basketball Coaches Association, D3 Hoops, and others. If you want to know how you can advertise your sponsor on this show, contact me. Later in the show, we'll talk more about the membership. We'll also talk about how you can support us through the Amazon wish list. And at the same time, how you can simply donate if you don't want to become a member. Thanks for watching. Back with Muskingham when we come back.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit NABC.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC1927. That's NABC.com or NABC1927 on social media.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
In any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all.
It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us. All of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
If I lose, I'll respond with respect.
If I win, I'll back it up with humility.
If I fail, I'll rise up with honor. It's tough for us to put it all on the line.
Don't undo my hard work with poor sportsmanship.
Respect. It's the name of the game.
Coach of the Year, Administrator of the Year, All-America Team, Wade Trophy. The WBCA doesn't just honor coaches, but players, administrators, and much more. The WBCA strives to honor those who have contributed to the advancement of women's basketball. Celebrate the present, honor the past, look to the future.
I used to never really talk, ever. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. It helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850...
There we go. Got it figured out. The ad was not supposed to roll over. I'm going to have to check the settings. Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. I'm Dave McHugh. Hope you're enjoying the show. If you've got questions for us, interact with us on Twitter, also known as X, at D3Hoopsville, or using the hashtag Hoopsville. You can join us via email, hoopsville@d3sports.com. Got a question already today via that avenue from someone who certainly knows that avenue works. You can also join us on Instagram, though it is hard to check all our socials. Facebook.com/Hoopsville. You can also interact with us straight on the stream. We're up on YouTube, and I'll check the stream and keep track of what's going on there. So feel free to chime in there. I'll do my best to keep in touch, and so on and so forth. That's how you can get in touch with us. You can also become a member by going to buymeacoffee.com/Hoopsville. It is Giving Tuesday tomorrow, and while we're not technically a nonprofit, we appreciate any giving you might be willing to give. We'll talk more in depth about that a little bit later in the program. One of the programs that has really jumped out at me is maybe the team that might have a fish jump into your boat. I'm sorry, I'm full of puns today. The Muskingham Muskies, which have one of my favorite logos of all time, are off to a 6-0 start in men's basketball. When I checked in on this, you'd have to go back to the mid to late 60s to find it last time they started that well. They've only started 3 times 8-0 in program history, dating back to the early 1910s. Is 8-0 possible? Well, maybe. Joining us on the Hoopsville Hotline is Nathan Wahle, the head coach of the Muskies. First and foremost, it is Wahle, despite my entire first segment forgetting the E. Nathan, I got to ask, considering your last name, and before we talk about the team, has anybody confused you with the absolutely dynamic Pixar movie?
All the time, yes. It used to happen, sooner when it had been released. Anytime I put my name in at a restaurant, that was the first response.
Oh, yeah, I could see that being a problem. Yeah, I could see that getting old too, right?
Yeah, I haven't heard that reference in a while, but it brings back some memories for sure.
You're welcome. We're a Disney family, admittedly, and if anybody knows my kids' names, they can pick up on that one pretty quick. Not entirely planned, somewhat inadvertent. Hey, listen, again, 6-0 start. Wins over Carnegie Mellon, Transylvania, Asbury, La Roche, Westminster, Earlham. I think it's noteworthy when a program is beating its own abilities. In other words, when you're 6-0 and the program hasn't done that since the 60s when you started, the last time you started 8-0, that's noteworthy. This isn't a program that usually has hot starts. And I look back at some of the scheduling. It's not like you went and played world beaters, and I'm not trying to diminish it. What I'm saying is this is significant for the program. What's the air? What's the approach? What's the feeling around the locker room with how you guys have started this year? You've won close games. You've also won blowouts.
Yeah, it's. I mean, the mood is good. There's a lot of confidence in the locker room right now. I think it really helped to win that first game. Kind of won it, wasn't quite a buzzer beater, but scored with about 2 seconds to go up 1 at Carnegie Mellon, who's really good this year. I think that just kind of propelled our start. We've got certain standards we're obviously trying to hit, and so while winning some of these games have been good, I feel like we still have other levels to get to. But overall, I'd say the locker room is feeling good, pretty confident.
This is an interesting dynamic on the team. You are somewhat young, but not. Like, it's interesting. You have a lot of freshmen and sophomores. You got a handful of juniors. And best I can tell, you have 2 seniors on this squad. Of course, one of them significant in Dwayne Davis. He's leading the team right now at 22.8 points a game. But then it's a junior in Owen Emig, a freshman in Jalen Barino, a sophomore in Phil Towns, a freshman in Roman Grosby, who are then the next guys on the totem pole in terms of just the scoring aspect of this. That's a balance that's pretty nice. You got one guy who certainly knows this program well and a lot of parts that are starting to learn how to win as Muskies. That's a nice combo package, it seems.
Yeah, I'm glad you actually pointed that out because it's been a little challenging from the returners that we have. We've got some strong returners who've played a lot of games, who we have we want to keep progressing things forward, but we have several underclassmen, especially the freshmen, who are trying to get up to speed because they can have an impact, and so kind of managing that dynamic of moving things forward but making sure our freshmen aren't left behind and they're up to speed has been a challenge. But yeah, I mean, Dwayne Davis is a special player. He makes coaching a lot easier, and he's really grown. It's been, in this day and age where you got the transfer portal and everything, to have him here for 4 years and get to see his maturation process and how he's grown into a leader, how he's helped build this program into a winner. I mean, his freshman year we went 1-24, so this has been a journey through his career, and he's done a really good job of just growing into a leadership role, and a lot of our other guys are just kind of following his lead.
Well, and to be fair, he's been through it all, right? I mean, in 22-23, the team was 1-24. The next year, 7-18. The following year, 14-13. Now you're off to a 6-0 start. He has literally run the gamut of seeing this program at maybe its lowest possible, the one game being an OAC win, and seeing it progressively get better every single year. He's got that motivation to continue that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's in. There's a lot of other guys. Our junior class was our first recruiting class, and we brought them in after going 1-24, and so there was a lot of our vision for our program they needed to buy into without really seeing the results, and so give a lot of credit to them. We've got guys who we just recently graduated who really established a foundation for our culture, which is now carrying over to guys in new leadership positions who are now leading our freshmen and sophomores, who are both really talented classes, and so it's all kind of it's taken some time, but the vision is starting to kind of unfold the way we were anticipating.
Well, you check off things. Last year, you guys have your first OAC tournament home game since 2006. 18 years since that had happened. Again, it's little things along the way of building things back to where you'd love to take them in what is a difficult conference. Yes, John Carroll is no longer there, but that doesn't make it any less difficult. This conference has emerged in the last few years to be pretty much a dogfight. So how tough has it been not only to try and build the program back, but you're going up against OAC foes that are essentially doing the same. Everybody's trying to rise to the top.
Yeah, it's really difficult. Especially with all of the the COVID years. We benefited from one of them, but just having the fifth years and having guys around for a long time. The league is tough. We have to play each other twice. We talk about you just got to try to hold serve, protect your home court, and then try to figure out a way to go steal some games on the road, which just isn't easy. It is a battle every single night in this league. We got so many great coaches, and yeah, we're about to get rolling in another OAC slate here starting Wednesday.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a moment. I want to touch base a little bit. Again, you're in your fourth season. You are a Bowling Green graduate. You went on to spend some time at Nebraska as an assistant, and then you showed up in Division III at Wittenberg, of course, in the NCAC, and then you ended up over at DePaul. What was it about going from a Nebraska program where you spent a few years as an assistant, I should say, at Doane University, Doane, and then deciding to go D3 at Wittenberg and then staying D3? Like, what you've got kind of all of, you've experienced it at multiple different levels, is what I'm trying to say, including some high school. What was it about D3 that you seem to have now kind of found, as it were? Because it's Wittenberg, then it's DePaul, and now it's here at Muskingham.
Yeah, my journey's a little odd. I was a student manager at Bowling Green, got involved, with everything there, but then just wanted to get some more hands-on experience. So my last couple of years at BG, I hopped on as an assistant at a high school, and I wanted to make I wanted to make a career of it. So I had zero connections at the small college level. I was no longer a manager at BG, so didn't have a ton of Division I connections. So just kind of cold calling, cold applying, and it led me to an NAI school out in Nebraska. Got a couple years out there of experience. And then I'm from Dayton, Ohio. Wittenberg's about 30 minutes away. So I always knew about, the history and tradition of Wittenberg. I had a small connection, into the athletic department that I kind of took advantage of, and very thankful to Bill Brown for allowing me to hop onto his staff. As I look back on just what my mentorship has been, I feel very blessed, especially for someone who didn't play at the Division III level or even college level. But the fact that I had Bill Brown, all-time winningest coach at Wittenberg, which is the all-time winningest program in Division III, and then I get to stay on with Coach Matt Croce, who was an unbelievable player at Wittenberg, unbelievable coach, multiple time, coach of the year, all that kind of stuff. We got Wittenberg, back on the national level while I was there under him. And then to jump over and be with Coach Bill Fenlon, who's the all-time winningest, coach at DePaul. Like, I'm blessed for the mentorship that I've received. And just, to your original question, this is just such a special level. I didn't know where my journey was going to lead. If I wanted to continue to work my way up, maybe a different level, but I don't know that I really want a whole lot to do with the Division II or Division I levels, the way things are going with NIL and transfer portal. I love this level, the purity of the sport. And then also just a lot of thanks to you and all the other entities who are just making it a bigger and bigger deal on social media and having these podcasts and talking about it and making it feel big time. I love where I'm at. I love this level.
I mean, obviously you're preaching to the choir. I couldn't agree with you more on most of that. By the way, I assume you are a disciple of what I'm now officially calling the Fenlon finish. Yeah. Right? You have to run that now.
Yeah. I have the article in here somewhere in my office. It's funny. There's actually, we went a couple different ways last year. We had a couple of those scenarios pop up, and there was one where we decided not to foul, and it ended up burning us against Mount Union. And I had to call Coach Fenlon the next day, and it was almost like confessing a sin. I had to confess to him, and I felt bad about it. But yes,
forgive me, Coach, for I have betrayed you.
Yes, exactly. That's how I felt.
I'm impressed that you called him and he didn't call you.
Yeah.
Hey, let's switch gears. Let's get back to the conference ahead, because the reason I wanted to talk to you last Monday and now today was because I did see what was coming, and it's not that I expect the road to be rough. I think it will be rough, but I want to get your insight on what you see ahead of you now that you're 6-0. The cat's kind of out of the bag. You're not going to sneak up on anybody in the conference, including after last year's 11-7 campaign compared to 3-15 the year before. You're at Capital coming up on Wednesday. You're then at Baldwin Wallace you're home against Baldwin Wallace Saturday. And then a week later, you're home against Mount Union. That's three big ones coming out of the gate in OAC play. Mount Union 7-0, Otterbein is 5-1, Ohio Northern is 4-1, Capital is 4-2. Of course, Marietta, Heidelberg, Wilmington, Baldwin Wallace. Baldwin Wallace, the only head scratcher right now. What are you expecting in this trio of games to learn about yourselves, to situate yourself for the rest of the season, etc.?
Yeah, I think, looking back on last year, what really propelled our conference record was just we got off to a hot start. And so I think that's really important for us heading into this stretch of games. Even after the 3 games you're talking about, we play Heidelberg at Heidelberg, and those are our 4 conference games before Christmas. And it's huge. I looked at it and I thought, man, this is such a tough stretch. And then I looked beyond, and it's just there is no such thing as an easy stretch. So you just gotta take it on, head on, one game at a time. Cap is really good. They lost by 1 to Cleveland State. in their exhibition game. They're big, they're physical, they play fast. They got a lot of talent. Baldwin Wallace, you say head scratcher. They're missing one of their best players, probably their best player, who's been an all OAC guy. He's been out due to an injury, and they've been in a lot of close battles. They've played one of the toughest schedules. So even though they're 1-5, they're a team who could win the OAC. It's just how deep this league is. And so try not to get caught up in looking too far ahead. Just got to, the coach speak, obviously, is you got to take it one game at a time. And so, we're locked on to Capital right now. We got to go over to their place. And like I said earlier, the key to this conference is you got to hold serve at home, and then you got to go figure out how to steal some on the road, because nobody's given anything in this conference.
Yeah, before that Heidelberg game on the 20th, you'll play Allegheny on the 16th. 20th feels like a late conference game. Was that a move from you guys, or was that the original schedule?
No, that's the original schedule.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then you get back, you'll go to Hope to play Olivet and Hope over the New Year's, and then you'll get back into conference play. Okay, so 6-0 start, obviously a great start. Obviously conference play ahead of you. You got Capital, as we mentioned, coming up on Wednesday. What's the conversation in the locker room? What is the message on the whiteboard? Whatever the case may be. I realize it's take every game one at a time to some degree, but how do you keep everybody focused and maybe on the ground when you really have gotten off to a really good start, receiving votes in top 25 last week, and heading into conference play with ambitions of doing more?
Yeah, I think one thing that's kind of exciting, but also has been a little bit frustrating, is we've really struggled with injuries this year, and so don't even feel like we've played a game yet out of our 6 where we've been fully healthy with everybody available that we have in the rotation. And so we've got some certain standards of play that honestly we established back when we weren't winning games. Back in the 1-24 and the 7-18 seasons, where we were really focused on just our process and how we gauge success, and if we execute the right way, we trust the results take care of themselves. Now we're just on the flip side of that. You can't take everyone wants to win, but you can't take the result on the scoreboard as you did everything right if you win, and if you lose, you did everything wrong. So we feel like we are very far from actually playing our best basketball, and so that's what's keeping our group hungry. And we're striving for those high standards that we've set for our program, and we don't feel like we're there yet, and that's what we keep pursuing. So.
Well, it kind of goes to the adage, there are some good losses and there's some bad wins for teams. Coach, appreciate the time. Congratulations, 4 years, and you've obviously turned the ship around, got this program heading in a tremendous direction. I know you got a lot of season ahead, a lot of games in conference still to deal with, but tip of the hat nonetheless on what you've been able to accomplish to this point, and looking forward to seeing how the Muskies do the rest of the campaign. As always, though, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuned in?
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier, but just you allowing this platform, even you just reaching out and allowing Muskingham, allowing me to talk about our program, just really appreciate it, and all the different people out there, Bob Quillman, the DataCast guys, Ryan Whitnable, Ryan Scott, just all those guys do an incredible job of promoting our sport, promoting our game. Also a shout out to just all the players and coaches. I think, it's a really special level, and everyone, wants the best for each other. We're all competitors, but at the end of the day, most of us support each other. And so just a really cool level. And again, thank you for having me on.
Hey, well, thank you for being on. As I say, it's easy to do a show where I'm a talking head. It's harder to do it when people need to come on and talk, and I appreciate you finding time to do so. Well said. Good luck. We'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Nathan Wahle joining us here on the Hoopsville Hotline. By the way, my camera was flashing during that. I don't know what's up. It's not breaking down, so we're going to go with it. probably just a loose connection somewhere we'll figure out. But hey, Muskingham off to a great start. 6-0, as we said. Big battle ahead with Capital. Baldwin Wallace, I know they're 1-5, but I think they're still worth keeping an eye on. Mount Union, then Allegheny non-conference, and Heidelberg, all before the holiday break. It's going to be interesting to watch Muskies. Let me try that again. Muskies. I'm getting the two words kind of jungled there. But I'm impressed, and I have a feeling Nathan Wahle's got something special brewing there in New Concord, Ohio. Fascinating. OAC, of course, looks a little different with John Carroll. Not in the conference this season. Frees up a couple of games for your non-conference, but it doesn't make that conference any more difficult or any more easier. It is still a difficult conference. Mount Union seems to be back in the conversation, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how that all plays out from here. And it looks like Nathan Wahle has found a home in D3. Got to love that as well. Take another break. When we come back, we'll switch gears. We'll head down to Western Virginia. We'll talk to the Hornets of Shenandoah. Melissa Smeltzer-Kraft's team suffered its first loss. Christopher Newport, they've already knocked off a couple of top 25s, though. What are they expecting this season from a team that probably could at least vie for second, if not win the ODAC? Yeah, I said it. They could possibly vie for the ODAC crown. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3 Hoops. Back with more after this.
For the love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that. A lot more.
Sure, the game is important. But as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics. And in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
We are the coaches of women's basketball. We are leaders and teachers, dreamers and winners. We are professionals who conduct ourselves ethically and with integrity. We place the education, safety, and well-being of the athletes we coach above all else and teach them the fundamental values they need to succeed in life. We are coaches united for the good of our game and those who play it. We are the WBCA.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit NABC.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC1927. That's NABC.com or NABC1927 on social media.
Responsibility is being accountable for your words and actions, first and foremost. It also is an obligation to be a positive influence in the communities around you. Being in a D3 program, you're going to have lots of different opportunities. You're not just an athlete, you're also involved in student life. Your academics are extremely important. We give a lot of our student athletes responsibilities right from the start by giving them leadership opportunities, by having them engage in the community, being a positive influence. That's being a responsible person.
There are over 480,000 college athletes. Only 2% would go pro. That means over 470,000 will not get a shoe contract. No autographs. No private jets. No fan clubs. No Hall of Fame inductions. Instead, they will walk away with something much more valuable.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're well. I'm your host, Dave McHugh. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville@d3sports.com. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. Lots of ways you can interact with us. We'll do our best to stay in touch with you as we're back from the holiday of Thanksgiving, and we're still talking turkey. Yeah, I'm full of puns today. This is what happens when I don't do a show for 2 weeks. I got things that have been building up for a while, and I got to get them off my chest, including the 2 cents coming up. I'm just talking to our next guest about what's coming up with that. We'll be talking about scheduling in D3 and how a lot of coaches are making a muck of it, including not knowing the rules. Don't forget, you can also become a Hoopsville member. Go to buymeacoffee.com/Hoopsville to become a member, which will gain you access to the Top 25 show tonight, which will be live. It's only for members. We will be double taking dubious, debatable, and deep dive teams on the men's and women's side. More to talk about that later. Switching gears, talking women's basketball. Shenandoah women's basketball off to a strong start. Yes, coming off of a loss, but everyone is bound to lose in a season. I am not of the adage that says that everybody is going to go undefeated, except maybe if you're NYU at this juncture. Team in Winchester is 5-1, beat Catholic, Wilson, Gettysburg, Mary Washington, and Dickinson. 2 of those teams were in the top 25 when they played them, Catholic and Gettysburg. Mary Washington's maybe not as strong as we're accustomed with Deanna Applebury's squad, who are 2-6, but still strong games. And Dickinson, well, they know the ODAC well. Abby Diop, from graduating in Mary Washington, having been a coach in that region, they've only got, they're 3-3 on the year with losses to Randolph, Macon, Emory, and now Shenandoah. So this is pretty good. Then they took a bit of a bump with Christopher Newport, but conference plays around the corner, and that's always the best time to talk to a coach. And now that I look at the system, I realize I haven't gotten coach into the system here, so bear with me as I dabble a little bit longer in my conversation. But Shenandoah is playing well. They're building off of a season of 17-10 last year, 21-8 the year before that. What exactly is in the water in Winchester, as it were? Joining us on the Hoopsville Hotline to talk all about it is the aforementioned head coach of the Hornets, Melissa Smeltzer-Kraft. Coach, welcome to the show. Welcome to the season, if you hadn't already been welcomed a month and a half ago. Tremendous start to the year. We'll talk about the CNU game, certainly, but, I mean, wins over Catholic by 3, beat Gettysburg by 11 at Randolph-Macon. Got a chance to see the Yellow Jackets up close as well. This is a pretty good start.
Yeah, I can't complain. It's been a great start, great November for us.
What was the mentality going in? You knew what you had for a schedule. You probably didn't know what your opponents would necessarily bring. Admittedly, I know Gettysburg pretty well. They have a few players who didn't return this year, which caught some people by surprise, but they're still a well-coached team. It's Nate Davis, after all. But you had Catholic out of the gate, beat them at home by 3, and that's when I immediately took notice, because usually Catholic is really tough to beat early in a season. What was the mentality coming in?
To be perfectly honest with you, Dave, we graduated a ton of stats, minutes, points, experience, all the things that you work really hard to build in a program. And we've always tried to have things ready in the cupboard, right? And through the 2 scrimmages, we were not ready at all. Kind of got a lot of hard lessons right out the jump. Going into that Catholic game, which was a weird Monday kind of start to the season after the opening weekend, we didn't really know what to expect. And, Skoblik was out. We were down 20 in the third quarter. And what we've discovered through the 5 games, now 6 games, is we've got a lot of fight in us, and we're going to go hard during those games. And, I kind of blacked out a little bit during the Catholic game. I'd be lying to you if I didn't say that. And just trying to take it minute by minute, just trying to take it day by day. And I know that's really cliche, but from an experience standpoint, we have a very young team and learning a lot about not skipping steps. And just because we knew this stuff a year ago, it needs to be retaught, relearned firsthand.
Yeah, I noticed in that game there was one lead change. It was the most important one, obviously. Catholic got out to a 19-8 start after the first quarter. They were leading by 13 at halftime. As you pointed, it got down to 20, but you turned it around. 25-9 in the fourth quarter. It obviously doesn't speak to what happened in the third quarter to get you rolling in that and really hold Catholic at bay. Was it just a light switch went on? What was it about the squad in that moment that kind of turned things around and led you all to a 3-point win?
I think you just have nothing to lose, right? Just keep chipping away, keep chipping away. The crowd could have left. They decided to not and stay behind us, and you could almost just feel the momentum shift. And it was a perfect storm at the end. But the reality was there's no big hero shot or whatever. I think it was just 36 seconds of taking the lead at the exact right 36 seconds or whatever it was.
Points off turnovers, you beat them 20-18. I'm sorry, 20-13. Points in the paint was pretty equal. But, I mean, I look at shooting. 2 of 10 in the first quarter. Pretty good in the second and third quarter. 5 of 12, 5 of 15. But 8 of 12 in the fourth quarter. You weren't necessarily really taking it by the three-pointer because you were 0 for 6 in the beginning of the game, and then you were 4 for 9 in the second half. But it was really about kind of getting the inside shots working for you.
Yeah, I think a big thing we try to focus on is shot selection, and that was something that came up last night in our loss as well. And just getting this current group again to understand what great shots look like, trying to shave off some of the worst ones and not see those almost as turnovers. And I think that's what happened as the game went on against Catholic. We just felt a little bit more comfortable, more confident with what they were giving us. That in-game assessment and adjustment stuff is huge.
Is that the confidence and then go in against Gettysburg and go, well, if we can beat number 19 Cardinals, we can beat the 24-ranked Bullets?
I don't think that those words ever came out of my mouth.
No, I wouldn't expect them to.
Yeah. I think from my perspective, and the language didn't really shift from scrimmage 1 to scrimmage 2 to game 1 to game 2, and then just that prep work every day, just getting in, trying to get better. But we go into Gettysburg and we just felt like it was a good matchup for us. And again, we have nothing to lose. And so we're a little bit different than we've been. And I'm still learning that. Our coaching staff is still learning what is this group capable of and what's the best way that we should play. And we're going to scout the heck out of teams. That's for sure. We're very well prepared in that sense. We have an unbelievable coaching staff. And our kids are going to be ready, and we played great defense against Gettysburg. Their starters didn't score in the first half. I just want to say that their starters didn't score in the first half, and that was huge for us just to feel that momentum, almost as a carryover from the first 2 games into that game.
Sure, and in Gettysburg, if there's one thing I'll definitely know about Gettysburg, they tend to sometimes be a little slow out of the gate, and build their momentum later, even with the younger team now. Fast forward to the Christopher Newport game, down 9 after the first quarter, down 17 at halftime. I mean, you can pack it in, right? You can say, forget it. This isn't going to be us. You fought back in the third quarter. It ended up being a 17-point or a 15-point loss in the long run, but you at least showed some fight in that second half. You got to be happy to build off of that. But what was it about Christopher Newport? You said about shot selection. Was it just shot selection, or was it what Broderick's team brings to the table in terms of chaos and confusion and insanity?
Yeah, I mean, the temperature certainly gets turned up a bit with their style of play and the pressure, and it's really hard to simulate that in practice, and I've been thinking about it a lot in terms of the holiday coming off of it, not making excuses at all, but, we have a very young team, right? We have 8 first years, 7 of which are able to play this season. And then you look in the gym and you're in practice and half the team is just dependent on what you say to them. And there's this fine balance of ignorance is bliss, which is great in moments, and ignorance is bliss is not great in moments. And some of that was learned in game yesterday in terms of the pressure, the intensity. that does not stop for 40 minutes. So I think we build a lot off of that. We will play DeSales in January, and they press the same type of way. And so I'm hoping for us that the lessons that we learned yesterday will not be in vain, but can be used and applied moving forward. And that's why we played them so early, and that's why we schedule the way we schedule. So
you won't see a team like that in the ODAC, but you've gotten a bunch of different styles under your belt. Catholic doesn't play like Gettysburg, who certainly none of them play like Wilson or Mary Washington or Dickinson. Like, everybody's got a different style, and I know the ODAC's got that as well. But you've got conference play around the corner. It's Virginia Wesleyan coming up on Wednesday. You then have Roanoke. You're at Virginia Wesleyan, then home against Roanoke before a non-conference slate returns, and then you get back into conference play on the 7th. How much is this non-conference play helping you get ready for ODAC play?
Well, that's our approach, right? We've booked these games that are, this isn't, a cupcake schedule by any means. That's with intentionality. The ODAC is a grind, and even though we've changed the playoff structure, which is less of an absolute beatdown, you've got to earn your right to be in that postseason tournament. So we've been lucky enough to do well in that February flow, and so it's about playing right at the right time. And so all these games are with intentionality, the things we are choosing as coaches to, impart the lessons that are selective by us to that young and impressionable team. All of that is a perfect flow, and the end story will be able to reflect back and sell it a different way. But right now it feels really good, and I'm excited about where we are as we move into December.
What are you expecting from this conference? Because you got WNL, who's probably got one of the best, does have one of the best players in Division III, manning the paint. She's pretty darn tough to stop. Randolph-Macon certainly looks good this year, off to a 4-2 start. But the rest of this conference is kind of sneaky good. Like, it's gotten more and more competitive over the last few years. Bridgewater was in the mix last year. Guilford kind of started to show up a little bit. Roanoke starting to turn the corner. What are you expecting from the conference in general this year?
Yeah, this conference is a beast. Got to see Macon up close at their tournament. But also got to scout them to watch Dickinson. I feel like I know Macon really well right now. But everybody wants to win, and that's what's happened in this league, and a testament to the coaches in this conference. Everybody's great. Everybody's working their butts off and recruiting really great talent from this region, and that D3 ideology is really present here, where these women are getting better over their 4-year haul with their coaches, and the competitiveness is at an all-time high. And I'm really proud to be in this conference, and I'm really proud to work at Shenandoah. And I think something that we've earned the right to have is everybody wants to beat us. And I feel so lucky to feel that way. I don't think that I ever would have imagined that when I started here 12 years ago. So, I'd rather be in a conference like this any day and then feel, that we've got cupcakes coming into the gym. Any given night, anything can happen, and it's a really special conference to be in.
For those who don't know, you graduated from Drew in 2007. You played 2 sports there, basketball and softball, so you had a brutal crossover season. But you also were used to playing tough opponents in conference, especially. What is it about Shenandoah that you have loved so much? Because you're in your, as you said, 12th year overall, 11th as head coach of the Hornets. Winchester is, just away from D.C., but close enough to still know it's there, but also in the nice foothills of the Shenandoah. I know a lot of reasons why it would be great to be out there. What are the reasons that you fall in love with that?
Yeah, I think there's 2 really obvious, just black and white reasons. Is we have a full-time assistant and a brand new gym.
Yeah, gym's
so that's
nice.
Great. Yeah, not everybody has those 2 things. I'm the only coach that's coached in that building from a women's basketball standpoint. I take great pride in that. Like I said, I have unbelievable assistants. I've mentioned them a couple of times with intentionality. Tessa Hampton is our associate head coach. We're in year 4 together, which makes a difference. And then Elle Bierman actually was the WBCA Assistant Coach of the Year in 2022, and she had left our staff and now come back. So it's not just me that loves being around here and in this at this great school, but I think my wife is our coach, our field hockey coach, excuse me. So we're locked in. But what I think is so special about Shenandoah is every single year we seem to be able to do things that have never been done. As simple as beating Dickinson for the first time ever last Tuesday night. I know that sounds silly. We were 0-2 historically, but it matters. And all these things matter. And so, we go out, we see great competition. We want to continue to make history here. As a D3 person who, like you mentioned, played at Drew, that's what you dream of in the purity of this level, is continuing to set the bar high, staying in one place, having your own culture. It's all awesome.
You and Roanoke both have arenas that have these incredible big windows off the end line, wonderful vistas. Roanoke's can cover theirs. Can you guys cover yours? Because that'd be distracting.
Yeah, the vista that we look at is I-81.
Yeah, I know. I've driven by it many times.
Yeah, it's hard to miss. It's beautiful looking in. It's interesting looking out. You just can hear the tractor trailers rolling by. But no, we do cover. There is a curtain that drops that is.
There is, okay.
Not
because every time I've driven by, there's no curtain.
Yeah, no, we're on the other side of the building. The wood is on the other side of that building, so the sunlight does not affect us at all, if not at all. So, there is a curtain though.
Scott Musa, when he was there, promised me a tour. I never had time to be able to stop in because I was always running late, leaving this place to get down to Salem or Roanoke Valley or wherever I was headed. Someday I will just stop because it's not that far from me. I keep reminding myself and check in. It's a great little setup, especially with a football stadium right alongside. Campus certainly is thriving. This is a challenging times in terms of financial livelihoods of schools. The ODAC certainly knows that well with schools within itself. You got to feel good with where Shenandoah seems to be because things seem to be going well there.
Yeah, everything is great here at Shenandoah. We just brought in our largest first-year class ever.
That's amazing.
Yeah, our graduate programs are flourishing as well. A lot of our current players and past players end up staying at Shenandoah and doing things in the health professions or a business school. So a lot of our players are getting 2 degrees from here. And, it's a great place, and I think we're in a really good spot. And the athletics side of campus is a microcosm of the overall side of overall.
That's a heck of a selling point. You can sell your class. Hey, you can come out of here with 2 degrees without too much trouble.
Yeah. And they get to stay with, hang out with me the whole time. So
I mean, I thought that was a given. Coach, I appreciate the time. Great to get some insight on the Hornets. Obviously, the season's young. I realize there's a lot ahead to finish up in Salem in the first place and making the NCAAs and whatever the case may be. But congratulations on the start. Congratulations on what you've accomplished there at the school, and good luck the rest of the season. As always, we get Coach, the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuned in?
Just briefly, I almost want to piggyback on what Nathan said. Just thank you and everybody at D3Hoops.com for all that you do, all the people that sacrifice their own personal time to be so invested in this level, and the athletes. And I think basketball is an unbelievable sport, and we get a lot of attention from you all. So thank you very, very much.
Oh, you're welcome. And thanks for coming on. As I said, it makes it easier to do the show when you all are willing to come on and yammer with me and humor me. So I appreciate it. Good luck the rest of the year. Look forward to catching up with you, and we'll talk sometime down the road, I'm sure.
Thanks, Dave. I look forward to the next time.
Take care. Melissa Smeltzer-Kraft joining us here on the Hoopsville Hotline. Great to touch base with her. Yeah, great little location. It's not that far from me. It's like an hour and a half. I've got zero excuses, but I keep not making a left-hand turn and heading down to Winchester to catch a game. I might have to change that if I got a free weekend, which I might actually this year. This year's schedule's kind of bonkers. I have a couple weekends where I don't have games scheduled. I got to figure out how to make that happen. When we come back, we'll stay with women's basketball. In fact, we will head up I-81. I think we go all the way up I-81, if memory serves, to Scranton. We'll talk to the Royals about beating Pitt, being the second ranked in the nation, all the expectations that are there, and just how good they are while being overshadowed by NYU. Ben O'Brien joins us, a Talk it all over here on Hoopsville. You're watching Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA studios. Back with more after this.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.D3Hoops.com.
I believe sportsmanship is a mutual admiration and respect for your fellow competitors. We all go through a lot to reach the point where we compete against one another. It's important to realize that. So once we're finally on the field or on the court or on the starting block, we look at each other as fellow human beings and not just competitors. Being able to recognize the hard work that other athletes are putting in creates a more positive and inclusive environment.
We are calling you, all of you. We are calling all Division III schools to join our cause.
It's on us to start the change. It's on us to be the change. It's on us. It's on Division III. It's on all of us to stop sexual assault.
Comprehensive learning is being able to adapt to experiences and apply the things that I learned. Being an athlete and juggling academics helped me grow as a person, and things that I've learned, I was able to apply it in another field, putting them into everyday life. Developing comprehensive learning helped me prioritize certain things to make sure I get to where I want to be.
Coach of the Year, Administrator of the Year, All-America Team, Wade Trophy. The WBCA doesn't just honor coaches, but players, administrators, and much more. The WBCA strives to honor those who have contributed to the advancement of women's basketball. Celebrate the present, honor the past, look to the future.
For the love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that, a lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you are well. I'm your host, Dave McHugh, coming to you from the Hoopsville studios, thanks to the Women's Basketball Coaches Association. Appreciate their assistance in that matter. If you got any questions for us, you can contact us via the show that's streaming on YouTube. We got the chat room up if you ever need it. And you can also contact us via, email, hoopsville@d3sports.com. That's a nice way of getting a hold of us. You can also join us on the other Instas, like facebook.com/Hoopsville. We're trying to keep track of any messages that might come through there. A little harder sometimes to follow those chats, but we'll do our best, and so on and so forth. So get in touch with us, send us questions, send us emails, etc. Tote board, we've checked off Muskingham, we checked off Shenandoah, we head up I-81, now check in with Scranton. The Royals women's basketball team knocked off Pitt. I'm excited about that too. Unfortunately for Scranton, it doesn't count as a win because it was an exhibition game. But for Pitt, it counts as a loss, and that's all that matters. Started one of 3 games in 3 days. D3s knocked off D1s, and I have a gut feeling it may not be the last one. Carnegie Mellon knocked off St. Francis, who's transferring to Division III next year, unless something goes awry. And then Johns Hopkins absolutely rolled over Morgan State in an absolutely shellacking. I think that shows you how good Scranton and Johns Hopkins are. Of course, they're overshadowed by NYU, who continues to play extremely well. To talk a little bit about that overshadowing, maybe. Talk about just how good their team is. What landmark play might be, et cetera, et cetera. Joining us on the Hoopsville Hotline, it's Ben O'Brien, the head coach of the Scranton Royals. Sir, good to see you again. I hope all is well.
Thanks, Dave. Always appreciate you having me on.
I appreciate you finding the time. I appreciate you adjusting your schedule to get us on after last week's postponement. Let's start with the Pitt game. Again, it's an exhibition for D3, and there's all the right reasons you have that as an exhibition. You're likely to lose it. I'm not trying to knock the program. You're playing a big D1 program. You're likely to lose it. You don't want that on your resume, right? You're allowed to have that as an exhibition and so on and so forth. But is there a small part of you right now that wishes you had that as a real game?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly it feels like a real game to us. I mean, there were officials.
Oh, sure, absolutely. I was going to touch on that.
They were keeping score and all that stuff. So whether or not it counts on our official record, I don't think really is something that we care too much about. But it was obviously a great experience, a great win, one that our coaches and players, and I think our university will remember forever.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I want to point out is, interesting enough, points and rebounds and all that for your players will not tabulate. That's kind of the quirk of it all. But you're right. You still approach it as a real game. You still approach it as a competition. You still want to take Pitt seriously. I'm curious, did you think when looking at tape, getting the team ready, kind of scouting the game, that you had a chance against that Pitt team? Or was the way that game started, because it started well for you all, and the way it played out kind of come a little bit as a surprise?
We knew on film they were big, strong, and fast. So you never really know until you get on the court with someone just how big of a difference there is in those categories in comparing the two teams. So we weren't really sure of what to expect as it relates to how big were they really, how fast were they really. Once we got on the court and started going up the court a couple times, I think our players and our coaches felt right away that we could absolutely be competitive in the game. So watching them on film, we felt like we could be, and then especially once we started playing the game, we really felt like we were going to be competitive.
First off, I'm kind of curious if they're ever going to talk to you again. You may not get that opportunity with Pitt again, but what was the feedback you got after knocking them off? How was Pitt in terms of reactionary to that?
I think Pitt, like any team that's on the losing end of a game, was disappointed. But I didn't think it was anything different than some of the other games that we've been a part of, and I'm on both sides of it. We've been on both sides, obviously, of winning and losing games. So I didn't sense anything different in that way. I definitely sensed a big difference in our players and our team after the game was over, in the locker room and on the bus ride home, and then obviously everything that happened on social media as it relates to the game. I mean, all of that was unique and different and special. And, it just goes to show you, again, about a team being sort of big, strong, and athletic, which Pitt absolutely was. And all coaches are looking for teams like that. They're not the only factors that go into winning. There's also skill and chemistry and togetherness. And once we figured out that from a size, strength, and speed standpoint, we were in the ballpark. They were bigger, stronger, and faster at a lot of positions, but we weren't so far away from them that we couldn't compete. I think it then allowed our chemistry, our skill level to give us a chance to actually win the game.
Point out, you also played Colgate earlier this season, so you certainly have had your experience with the D1s. You then started the season with wins over number 22 Geneseo, number 7 Cortland. Wiped the floor with NJCU before getting that win over Pitt 69-63, and then you've since gotten into conference play, which we'll touch on in a minute, and a game against Tufts. But looking back at that Pitt experience, what was, because obviously you go to Pitt, so what was the entire experience like? What was, what did you guys make it a bigger event, or was it simply a game you traveled to, you played them, and you traveled back?
Yeah, it was a game where we went out the day before. We practiced at Pitt on Saturday. It was a big weekend in Pittsburgh. It was Pitt Notre Dame football. It was the Bengals versus the Steelers. So there was a lot going on. I know some of our parents were able to go to some of those other activities, and so certainly we were going out there with the idea of making a weekend out of it, getting a chance to play in a beautiful arena, all that stuff. So, but besides that, we treated it like any other game that we played. I mean, we did all of our stuff the day before in terms of walkthrough and preparation and all that stuff, and then we went back to the hotel. We had some film sessions, and then we got up the next day and got ready and went out and played the game. So it was very sort of business as usual. Besides the fact that we had a 5.5 hour bus ride out there, and we did stay the night before.
Find it interesting. You guys had a 10-point lead, I think, at halftime. They came back, stormed third quarter 23-7. Then you beat them 25-13 in the fourth. And you look at their stats. The only thing that jumps out at me was just poor 3-point shooting, 4 for 15, which isn't poor. It's just you shot 10 of 28 in comparison. It was a pretty evenly played game. And then again, as we mentioned, there were a couple other wins in D3 over D1s as well. I say this a little tongue-in-cheek, but I am kind of curious your take. I know the D1s like to play D3s. Is there a moment where you guys getting these wins, though, maybe changes that equation a little bit, and you won't get a call from a Pitt in the future? You might get a call from a UMBC, but that's about it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's depends on what those programs are looking to get out of the game. I mean, if they're looking for potentially someone that can challenge them and test them and help them maybe find some of their weaknesses, and so maybe they would look for a game or a team like us. I mean, if they're just looking for a game where they can win by 50 or 60 points and play everybody and all that stuff, then maybe some of the top Division III teams, maybe that's not the best situation there. But I think it all depends on what teams are looking for. I know for us, I mean, we're trying to schedule a difficult schedule in the beginning of the year to try to figure out what areas that we need to improve on. So we try to play as many good teams as possible. And I'm sure there's a lot of teams across the country at all levels that are looking for the same.
After the Pitt game, you travel to Drew to start landmark play. You get a win 71-48. You then come home 3 days later to play Goucher, and then the next day play Tufts. I'll come back to the Tufts game, but you beat Goucher 90-48. Was there any concern after the Pitt game that you could fall into a trap against Drew and everyone just thinks it's easy? You can beat Pitt, you can beat Drew. How do you keep everybody kind of focused and on the right page there?
Yeah, I thought that was a really big challenge, and I was incredibly proud of how our players handled those games in the aftermath of Pitt, because, yeah, I think human nature is that there's going to be some sort of letdown. So we tried to, number one, enjoy the win, because it was a historic win for us and our program. So we wanted to make sure that our players had the opportunity to enjoy it. But then when it was time to move on and begin our preparations for our next game, to try to completely move on from it and only focus on the next opponent. And you never know until you get out on the court whether or not you're going to be able to do that. But I thought we came out against Drew and had a terrific first half. I mean, we were really firing on all cylinders. So I was really, really proud of how our players handled the first game after Pitt and how they've played since. But that was definitely something that was a major concern of mine.
So then you played Goucher and Tufts on back-to-back days, scheduled that way, a conference game against the Gophers, and then traditionally a pretty darn tough Tufts squad the next day. Some could look into that and say, well, we know what they're thinking about in that first game. But at the same time, you could fall into the same darn trap, right? Be looking at Sunday's game, and the Gophers could go, hello. It didn't happen that way. How do you manage a weekend like that, and why did a weekend like that come together?
Yeah, I thought it was a great opportunity for us to simulate what the NCAA tournament looks like as it relates to playing those back-to-back games. I mean, that
makes
is a very
total sense.
very challenging scenario where you are trying to prepare for multiple teams and with very little prep time in between games. It's sort of an unusual way, I think, to decide, who's going to be the best team in the country in a given year. But that's the circumstances as they are right now. So we tried to schedule in a way that would give us some practice in terms of preparing for multiple teams, at the same time.
Well, and the only difference is it's Tufts in the second game versus kind of not knowing who the opponent is, though you kind of suspect you will know who that opponent is in the second weekend or the second game on an opening weekend. But you also handled Tufts 73-42. I'll admit, I didn't see that coming. What worked so well in the game against the Jumbos?
Yeah, I think defensively we really got after it, and we always try to lead with our defense. But I think our defense was able to contain them pretty well. They have some very, very talented players, and then I think we capitalized on some turnovers and things to kind of get our offense going. But I thought the Tufts game was one of our best games all year from a team defensive standpoint. And I think even more importantly, from a team offensive standpoint, in terms of how we shared the ball and moved the ball and the shot quality that we were getting and taking, I think we took a big step forward in that Tufts game.
You will play Stevens tonight, we should point out. Appreciate you finding time today to get ready for that game while chatting with us. And then you'll have Moravian on Wednesday before getting back into conference play. Well, that's getting into conference play, but then also back on the road in conference play on Saturday against Juniata. And before the end of the new year, you'll be at DeSales and then home against Penn State Harrisburg. Tell me about this team. We've gotten so used to these names over the years. You're led by a handful of seniors and juniors that have become synonymous with Scranton women's basketball lore. Casey Cranston, Megan Lamanana. I can never say Megan's last name right when I say it out loud. Lamana. Katie Gorski, Elizabeth Bennett. Those are the four that jump out at me, obviously, not only because they're scoring in double figures, but we've seen those names. What is it about that core? What is it about everybody else that supports it?
Yeah, it's an experienced and talented group that has played in a lot of big games with one another. So they've been there, and they do a great job of playing with each other on both ends of the court. But certainly we're led by our three seniors, Kaylee Romanowski, who's one of the best point guards in the country. To me, the best on-ball defender in the country. She's just an incredible. She really just sets the tone for us in so many ways. And then Casey Cranston, who's been an All-American her first 3 years here at Scranton. And then also Jenna Sloan, who's one of the best assist players in the country. I think was second in the country last year in assist to turnover ratio, and I think Kaylee Romanowski was first. So those three players have done a great job of leading us, and then we have a super talented junior class that has really taken the next step in their progressions. Liz Bennett and Megan and Katie Gorski, to name a few, have been tremendous. And to me, right now, Katie Gorski is somebody who I think is playing as well as anyone in the country. Has come back incredible. She was a great player as a sophomore, but she's come back as a totally different player this season, and is really doing a lot of great things on both ends of the court. So she's been terrific.
How do you keep the team focused when you've been dominating teams all season? Geneseo you beat 60-35, Cortland 69-50, Jersey City 87-46. We mentioned the Drew and Goucher scores. Tufts score wasn't as close as many of us thought. Obviously, the Pitt's game was close. On paper, why would Stevens, Moravian, Juniata, DeSales, Harrisburg, Elizabethtown, Susquehanna, why would any of those games be close either, unless it's something that happens on your end? So how do you keep everyone focused and not kind of just think they're going to breeze through things and have a letdown?
Well, I think we have an incredibly talented roster. So although we have a rotation of players that are currently in the rotation, there are players battling for those spots in the rotation on a daily basis in practice. And our players know that if they don't bring it, every day. That they, there's other very talented players behind them at every position that are ready and eager to step in to a bigger role if given an opportunity. So I think there's an incredible amount of competition that exists in our program right now. That's an everyday thing. So I think that keeps all of the players in our programs grounded, all of the players in our program hungry, and I think has served us really, really well this season.
You're sitting second in the D3Hoops.com top 25 poll. Assume that's not going to change tonight. You got 7 first-place votes. That might change. Who knows how voters will feel. Feels a little bit like you're being overshadowed by NYU, and yet you're both doing the same thing to teams, and that is rolling through them. Is that a good thing, maybe, that you're not getting as much attention as NYU, or am I completely misunderstanding the situation?
Yeah, the attention part of it, we don't spend any time on at all. We're trying to just prepare to play our best game every single time out. And that's we're laser focused on that. So our hope tonight against Stevens is that we play the best game that we've played all season, and we've been working towards doing that in the last few days in practice. So that's all we're focused on. 100% of our mental and physical energy is going into the next opponent, to the next practice. So all the other stuff, we know that if we just take it one step at a time, give it everything we have on a daily basis, we'll be happy with where we end up.
Well, I'm going to work on a cool segment coming up in January when Scranton takes on Catholic. But in the meantime, how do you see this conference shaking out? Is this a Catholic Scranton race, or is this keep everybody behind you, or is there going to be some sleepers in this conference?
Yeah, I think the conference is really, really strong this year. I think it's actually deeper this year than maybe even last year. Certainly, Catholic has been a team that's been really good, so I expect them to be very good again this year. But then you have teams like Drew and Susquehanna and Elizabethtown, to name a few, who have also returned the bulk of their rosters and are stronger this year as well. So I think it's going to be a very, very competitive conference. And I think like conference play in general, it's like teams know each other so well that it's always tough to win in conference games, especially conference road games. But again, we're going to try to prepare the best we can to hopefully play our best games every time that we face whoever it is that we're playing, whether it's a conference team, out of conference team. Just be as ready to go as we possibly can be.
Well, Ben, I appreciate the time to chat about your squad. Congratulations on what you've accomplished so far. I'm pretty darn impressed. I thought there were many ways Scranton could be any more impressive, and you guys are rolling at this point in the season, so I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out. As always, though, the tradition, we always give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with those who may be tuned in?
Yeah, Dave, as always, thanks so much for everything you do for Division III college basketball. We appreciate the coverage. I know our players and their players' families love the coverage. So thank you so much for everything you do. You do an amazing job. Very thankful to be on the broadcast, and looking forward to a great season this year.
Thanks, Ben. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on and being a part of the show as well. Good luck, especially starting the night against Stevens, and I'm sure we'll be catching up with you down the road.
All right. Thanks, Dave. Take care.
Take care. Ben O'Brien joining us here on the Hoopsville Hotline. Again, they're 6-0 with Stevens tonight, Moravian on Wednesday, on the road at Juniata on Saturday. Take a 10-day break before they're back against DeSales. Want a quick note about NYU. I jumped into their schedule during the show and double-checked something. They've won every single game by essentially scoring 100 points. The only game they didn't score 100 points was against SUNY New Paltz. They won 99-37. It's scary what Meg Barber, Ben O'Brien, and some of these other teams are doing. Oshkosh is playing well. Smith is insane. Johns Hopkins. The top 5, maybe handful of the top 10 are dominating play this year, and it's really impressive to watch. I'm looking forward to catching up with more of those programs as we move forward. When we come back, we'll talk to Endicott men's basketball about what they're doing this season. So much more ahead. You're watching Hoopsville, presented by D3 Hoops from the WBCA studios. Back with more after this.
The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit NABC.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC1927. That's NABC.com or NABC1927 on social media.
Something I discovered in myself is that if I have a goal, then I can accomplish it.
It's a well-rounded experience.
At a Division III school, you primarily a student athlete, so the school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual.
It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
In any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all.
It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us, all of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
We are the coaches of women's basketball. We are leaders and teachers, dreamers and winners. We are professionals who conduct ourselves ethically and with integrity. We place the education, safety, and well-being of the athletes we coach above all else and teach them the fundamental values they need to succeed in life. We are coaches united for the good of our game and those who play it. We are the WBCA.
I learned a lot of valuable lessons playing college football. I never thought about the health benefits of exercise until I actually started to talk to coaches in college. It's not only just for performance, it's for life. My coaches instilled the importance of well-being, not only building up strength, mental health, getting enough sleep, eating properly is all what it is to be healthy. I decided that I want to go into personal trainer and share my knowledge that I obtained in college about physical and mental well-being.
For the love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that, a lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics. And in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the show on this Monday. Heads up, not sure if we'll have a Thursday show. We're dealing with some challenges with the schedule. I have a gig in the morning, late morning, so that's going to push a 12 o'clock show. So we were thinking about doing it late afternoon, but they need me to stay at the gig longer than expected. It's one of those STEM games between 2 women's basketball programs, so there's going to be a lot of schools involved, so they want my help with that. And then the evening might be thwarted because my wife's got a business situation. So I'm either floating the idea of pushing to Friday or we'll just skip it and go to Monday. There's so much to talk about, but there's also not a lot that we want to overcommit to our segments so that we don't have anything to talk about later in the year. So I'm tossing around the idea. Worst case, we will be back on the air the next Monday, the 8th at noon Eastern, and then we'll be on the air for that Thursday as well. Also, there are some coaches out there. If you got an email from me that says 'twas the night before, read it, get back to me. If you didn't, don't worry about it. And don't forget, buymeacoffee.com/Hoopsville. We'll talk more about that in an upcoming segment. Also, Dave's 2 cents, the Hoopsville Rant, his twist. We're going to talk about scheduling and coaches who seem to like changing the schedule for whatever reason, burning some bridges while doing it. Learned a little bit more about it this offseason. All right, we're going to switch back to men's basketball, head up to New England. Endicott off to a strong start this season. 6-1, their lone loss coming last week to Colby on the road. But they've got a win already in conference play against Nichols, 84-73. They beat Tufts, 76-73. They came from behind to beat MIT at home, 71-62. Really strong start to a program that is consistently a 17, 18, 19 win team most years, to the point that maybe we overlook them a lot of the time. I look back to see last time I had Kevin Bettencourt on the show, it had been a while. So to rectify that, we decided we're going to him early this year to get him on the show, talk about the goals and so much more. Joining us on the Hoopsville Hotline to talk about his Endicott team, it is the aforementioned Kevin Bettencourt. Coach, good to see you. Welcome to the show. Thanks for taking the time.
No, good to see you as well, and thanks for having us on. Always appreciate having a chance to talk about the kids in my program and some of the strong things we're doing up here at Endicott, and appreciate all the work you're doing to get the word out. And good start, and we're hoping it can continue after this little bit of a break that we all needed and we had. I think you sound a little bit busier than me the last week or so. I got a couple of days away, so refreshed and excited to get going again.
Yeah, I haven't played since the 22nd when you lost up the road at Colby, and I'm joking it's up the road. I know that is not an easy haul. There is no straight roads between Endicott and Colby. You got to go around this, around that, through here, and around Dale to get up there to Colby. But it was a tough game, 93-89. I'll start there because it's the most recent game. It was the one loss after a 6-0 start. Colby looks good this year. Neskak's always a tough opponent. What did you think of that game and the outcome?
Yeah, I mean, we were in a tournament up there, so it was the second day of a back-to-back. We were coming off a 3-game and 4-day stretch, just like Colby. So, part of it was I thought whoever had enough energy and could come out and play harder. And Colby, they played tremendous in that game. And, I thought we were a little bit on our heels early on in the game. At least defensively, they were very comfortable. They got off to a great shooting start, ended up shooting 16 for 29 from 3 for the game. Had a big 6'10 kid, sophomore, Sabillo, last name, and I think he went 7 for 9 or 7 for 10. Really kind of stretched our defense. So I give Colby all the credit. They outplayed us. They beat us. They were quicker to the basketball. They built a pretty comfortable lead early. Our guys kind of hung in there. We made a really strong push late. We were down 20 with about 4 or 5 to go. Cut it down to a 1-possession game with a minute left. Got a key stop and kind of traveled on the rebound, which would have given us a possession to at least have a chance to tie it. And they knocked down their free throws. So, Colby, really good team, new coach. I didn't know Sean very well before the weekend, but his team played really hard, shared the ball really well. It was a really good opponent for us to play. Obviously, it would have been a great win for us to get, but they earned it. And, I think, just like any team in the country right now, we're just trying to kind of learn about ourselves, and games like that really challenge us. Obviously, we'd rather have a win, but we're going to learn from the loss and hopefully improve. Our defense over that last weekend dropped a little bit, especially on the perimeter. So, hopefully that can refocus us and, we can make some improvements and continue to get better, which is obviously the key for all of us.
Some statistical sides, I mean, it was a good game. The only blemish first half was maybe 2 of 7 from beyond the arc. You shot 44%, then shot 50+% in the second half. To finish 47%, you were 7 of 21 from beyond the arc. You put up 33 points in the first half, but you gave up 49, to your point about defense. You came back and scored 56 in the second half. There are some teams who don't put up 56 in a game. So you had to be thrilled with that. But yeah, it's a defense wins championships, right? That's the old adage, whether accurate or not. Trinity certainly proved it last year. How do you go and work on the defense within that, losing focus on what you do need to do on offense?
Yeah, last couple of days, we've just really tried to show our guys some film from how we started the season defensively, just with our intensity level. Like I said, we have some smaller guards right now. We had some bigger guards in the program that are dealing with some injuries, so we're a little undersized at that spot. We just got to try to use our quickness and speed some teams up. And, in the beginning couple games, especially against MIT and Tufts, we did a really good job of that. I mean, I could chalk it up to some fatigue, but, as a coach, I don't want to just dismiss. We kind of lost a little of our intensity on the perimeter over the weekend before the break. So we're just trying to show them, the good and then the bad and what we need to improve to be the best versions of ourselves. I've been very confident on the offensive side of the ball. Colby in that first half, we have the first time ever we had an All-American last season, Marcus Montanino. I'm sure we're going to talk about him a little bit more. They held him to one shot attempt. They did a really good job in that first half, and I think kind of took us a little while to get our footing. And unfortunately, they were making shots while we were kind of trying to find ourselves on an offensive end. I think we caught on to something in the second half, but by then, we were just battling uphill the whole time. So, to Colby's credit, they were prepared for the game. They did a really good job, beat us. But hopefully we can keep growing. I think the defense will be the key. As you said in the intro, we've had a really strong program, forever, pre my era here. We've always done a really good job being up towards the top of the conference. But, in some of these playoff games the last couple seasons, we got to learn to get those key stops and rebounds. And that's really what separates those couple possessions when you get into a strong playoff. And we've had some really strong programs in our league the last handful of years. So, we just got to keep making a commitment to that end of the court, keep trying to get better. Obviously Coach Cosgrove over at Trinity, you referenced him. He used to be an Endicott basketball coach way back when. I think it was his first head coaching job, but he certainly has created a great model for all coaches to be following with how they defend. I mean, they're off to an incredible start again. And he's been a friend of mine for a long time, so really happy for him, but trying to get all of us to buy into that end. These kids come in now so skilled and so talented offensively. They're hard to guard sometimes, so we just got to try to find what works for us and keep getting better at that end.
Your group does feel a bit upperclassman heavy. You're led by a graduate student in Marcus Montanino. I know I just bought.
That's all right. Montanino. It gets butchered everywhere. That G is silent.
Wow, it's Montan. Yeah. Wow, half that word is not said.
The G screws everybody up. But
yeah, it does.
He's so quiet. I'm not sure I even pronounced it right the first couple of years I knew him, but he's a hell of a player.
Oh, that's brilliant. He's got 24 points a game. He's not quiet on the floor. Elijah Kinney, the junior, 21.9, 22 points a game. Then you have a freshman in Caden Sullivan at 13.9 and a sophomore in AJ Ford at 8.1. But Presto does this weird thing where it only shows me those who played 60% of team games. Yeah. It's all seniors and graduate students that you're primarily leaning on. They may not jump out on the points per game side of it other than those guys. Tell me about that makeup, because it does feel senior and upper class driven, but as we point out with Sullivan and Fort, there are some underclassmen who are obviously playing key roles.
Yeah, no, I mean we have a unique roster. We've benefited from having some grad students and some guys. Unfortunately, last handful of years we've had some injuries along the way, so some of these guys kind of stacked up with their eligibility. Even out of our 5 or 6 seniors we have right now, a couple of them still have extra years because of injuries that happened earlier in their career. So, we have a lot back from last year. We did graduate 2 key rotation players and a couple of guys who helped us on the practice court. We brought in some new players this summer. We had a sophomore who re-injured a foot that, we thought would have a chance to kind of break into the rotation. We have a sophomore transfer who played a couple of games and then unfortunately had a bad ankle sprain. We lost a freshman forward to a shoulder injury. So, I always stress to these guys, nothing's promised here at Endicott. We're going to play the best players. So, you see guys like Caden Sullivan and AJ Forte who've earned opportunities on the court. We tend to be playing our older guys because those are the ones who are helping us win right now. But we do have some good balance in the underclassmen. It just hasn't flushed out that way. But a lot of experience from last year. So I thought we had an opportunity to kind of grow. Marcus was new to our program last year. Elijah in his second year. As those guys have gotten more comfortable playing with each other, obviously we play through those 2 guys, and they're both great players for this level, and both really unselfish and work tremendously hard. And Caden Sullivan, he was a state champion last year in Massachusetts at Franklin High School, a really strong high school up in this area. I knew we were getting a pretty good player in him, and state championship game, he goes off at 30 points and 20 in the fourth quarter. He's just one of those type of guys, and kind of started realizing how special he could be here, and he's off to a great start, and has really fit in pretty seamlessly with the players on the team. So, when you have situations like that where you have a freshman joining a senior and grad student laden team, it's really just a matter of getting them all on the same page. But our guys are so excited to have Caden and really have welcomed him, and have allowed him to be aggressive, which has helped everybody. We still have some other guys who, I think have some talent that just haven't really found their footing on game day, but just with some of their shooting. But I think we have a really deep, talented team. So hopefully we can keep improving and, kind of continue to play well on the offensive end as we have.
You got the win over Nichols, as we point out. I think I was more impressed with the fact that 84-73, and their 3-4 start. You kind of, this is a Nichols squad that until last year we were so just used to being a juggernaut along with you all, and it's a battle atop the conference. You got to win over them early. This conference, Hartford has now kind of made it a little bit more interesting. They're off to a 5-1 start. Some other teams have kind of gotten into the fray. Western New England is back in the conversation. This conference has evolved a lot in the last couple of years. This isn't the Nichols Endicott show anymore. It's a little bit deeper, and it's not necessarily Nichols.
Yeah, no, when Coach Tab got hired over at Western New England, I've known Colin for a long time. I knew how strong a program he would build, and it really, seems like they're hitting the ground running this year after coming off a Sweet 16 appearance last year with a lot of, they graduated a lot of players, but, they have a really good program running, and I knew they did a good job developing some of those younger kids, which is obviously playing out right now. They've had a few key transfers. Suffolk has had a really strong program. They had 9 seniors last year. They beat us in our semifinal game, lost to Western New England, pretty much on that buzzer shot. I don't know if you guys covered that one at all, but that one went right down to the wire. He reloaded with a lot of new players. We were actually with Suffolk at that Colby tournament. We didn't play against them, but I got to see them live a couple of games. And Jeff Duran does a great job, and got some really talented freshmen contributing. Hartford, it looked like they picked up a couple of transfers, and they had a really young team last year. I mean, they gave us all we could handle in a game. I think went to overtime, like a 104-100 game last year. So I could see some of their talented underclassmen, and now they've added some key pieces. Haven't seen them live yet, so I don't want to say too much. But I think the conference in general. This is my 12th season here, and I think from top to bottom, it just continues to improve. I've been really proud of the whole conference and how much it's gotten better. We talk as a coaching group all the time how to break through and try to get multiple teams to maybe get NCAA looks, and we have been fortunate enough to get in that large bid one of my years here. But we reduced the number of conference games, and I'm hoping that maybe a little bit more non-conference success for our conference, for our league, and really help us with some of the numbers as we work through the new MPI stuff. And I think this is year 2 or 3 of that. So I'm really proud to be a part of the league. I think it's going to be a great challenge. Always rooting for the teams in our league, especially non-league. But I actually thought the Nichols game was perfect. I was a little worried. Obviously that was an emotional, exciting win for us, beating Tufts, first time in our program's history. And Tufts has a tremendous program. I have a lot of respect for Brandon, who used to coach at Nichols. And we were really fortunate to come out with that one. So I was a little worried, just emotional hangover going into that Nichols one. But Nichols has a lot of talent. They have a kid, Don Mello, who was a D1 player coming off a foot injury last year. He's only going to continue to improve this season. They have another really electric guard. And they played really hard in that game. And that was a really good win for us to start the conference play. I think Nichols will continue to get better. They just had a really good win over Clark yesterday on the road. I think that team has some talent. Once they kind of, continue to get used to playing against, with each other, I think they're going to continue to improve as the season goes on as well. Yeah, I hope so. I mean, we've always tried to schedule, pretty strong non-conference anyway. In some years like last year where the record didn't really go the way we were hoping for, you still try to learn from it and get better. I mean, where we are the second semester when we get into conference play, that's where it matters the most. I mean, obviously we all want to win these games early on, but there was a year we got our first NCAA win in my second year, first NCAA win in Endicott history back in 2016. We were 4-5 going into the new year, and we lost some tough ones coming off a championship the year before, returning 5 starters. You just never really know what early season basketball is going to bring. It's floors are kind of all over the place. But it's more about just trying to create our identity. But yeah, I think the more we can test us early on and improve some things. I mean, the MIT game, we started off down 15-0 in our home opener. And didn't really look very good for a while. And thankfully we were able to settle in after the first 8 to 10 minutes of the game and really kind of make a strong push and win that game by double figures. We got up against Tufts. We were up double figures maybe with like 3 or 4 minutes to go. They started making some shots, and we had to kind of hold on and make some free throws at the end. I mean, even the Colby one we lost, we're down 20 with 4.5 left. We called the timeout. I told the guys, hey, we got 2 minutes to make a push here. We got to pull the plug on this one. And to those guys' credit, we come down and get it to a 1-possession game. So a lot of things that I'm learning just about the resiliency and competitiveness of the group. And like I said, you want to create some low-scoring games, some high-scoring games, some different situations that we're going to have to kind of navigate, because all that stuff's going to come out through the conference play. And hopefully we can, like I said, learn who we are and figure out who we, the best version of ourselves are going into conference, which I think this slate has done a pretty good job. And we have 4, really tough games heading into winter break, to hopefully continue that path. Yeah, I mean, well, when I was at Bucknell, I used to joke. I was obviously really close with my coaching staff there. A bunch of those guys, Coach Flanders obviously stepped away, but 2 of my assistants are D1 head coaches now. One of my assistants is an associate AD out in San Jose State. And I used to tell those guys all the time, I didn't think college coaching was for me. I got my background in education. I went back to my old high school to be a teacher. Started coaching at the high school level first, actually. I was an assistant in my old high school my first year out, and I loved the coaching. I only signed up to start coaching at Salem State to try to get some money off my master's classes that I needed for my teaching certificate. And when I started working with college players that second year, and a little bit of getting rejuvenated too. Being a college player, it's a lot. You got to really commit your life to basketball. But when I was over at Salem State, I just kind of fell in love with it. I interviewed at a couple different places. My background with Coach Lawson over at Bentley, who really is, one of the most influential people I've had in my life. His son and I were best friends growing up. And when I was in my playing career at Bucknell, Bentley was about 25 minutes from my house. They would let me use the facility over there in the summers. So I was kind of like an adopted member of the Bentley program during my Bucknell years, played a lot of pickup games with their players. And when I had the opportunity to join them full time, I jumped at it and just totally fell in love with the college coaching. I didn't really jump into it with any expectations. I mean, obviously, coming from the Bucknell background, that's what I was comfortable with. But when I was at D2, really just loved that level as well, and enjoyed just working every day with really committed college basketball players. We was able to, be a part of a staff that, we went to a Final Four one of my years. We had a real chance to win a national championship. And I really kind of just started loving the lower levels too. And I just was really open-minded. I interviewed for some D1 assistant things while I was at Bentley. Ultimately, I ended up getting this Endicott job, which is about 10 miles from my house. While I was at Bentley, I met my now wife. We're raising a family. I have a senior at Endicott right now, actually. And, just kind of found a great lifestyle balance between family and coaching at the Division III level. When I got hired at Endicott, I just worked for tremendous people. My whole administrative team has pretty much stayed intact during my 12 years. And I just really believe in what we're doing over here. We became a co-ed school in 94, 95. So, men's sports, I think we're in our 32nd or whatever the math would be, 32nd season. And I just think it's continued to progress up. Our programs are strong across the board. I think last year, all 21 varsity sports, we won over 80% of our conference games. And it's just really a cool and special department to be a part of. I've just fell in love with the place. Never rule out anything. You never know. I mean, a lot of my Bucknell teammates, I have a couple teammates. One's the actual head coach at Bucknell now and doing a really good job. They having a tough start to the season, but he's a tremendous coach and he's going to turn it around quick. And, my college roommate's the head coach of the Charlotte Hornets now, Charles Lee. So, I have some friends and I hear how they talk at their levels, but, what every coach says, and when I got into this profession, you make where you are special and you give it everything you have. And I say this to our recruits, whether I was coaching Division I, Division II, Division III, and then NBA, I give it everything I have, and I want to make the experience good for our players. And we spend just as much time breaking down film and trying to improve our team. And I think the coaching challenges in Division III are good. There's a lot of great coaches at this level, and we're challenged every day. A lot of really good programs. So from a competitive side, I'm really happy. And I have a 10 and a 9-year-old who are around my team every day, and they have 17 really good big brothers that take care of them. So I just love being a part of this community and take it year by year, but just really thrilled to have this opportunity. There's a ton of guys. I say this we go down the NCAA Final Fours. There's hundreds of people trying to break into this profession. I'm just really fortunate to have a good job with great kids, and I thank whoever every day that I have this opportunity.
Yeah, the Final Four is insane from the coaching perspective. Having been
it got intimidating. I remember going down the first time, and you go down there the first time, you think you're going to meet all these big coaches, and you'll get jobs, and you see all the people trying to break in, and then you really appreciate what you have. And I was really lucky under 6 years to be under Jay Lawson in a great program, and I took everything from every coach, from high school who I played for to Coach Flannery to Coach Lawson, but I think he gave me a really strong background of how I want to run a program, and thankfully it's played out pretty well over here at Endicott.
Yeah, it's almost like an ambush center at those Final Fours. You're just trying to hopefully get on an elevator with somebody.
It humbles you quick. I get asked all the time by young aspiring coaches, and there's no direct line path to a great job, and that's why you go out, you work as hard as you can, you hope you get recognized for the right reasons, and a lot of it's just right place, right time, and that's how I felt at Endicott. My wife was pregnant with my middle daughter, and I was able to land a job 8 miles from my hometown. I've had my son's now been a student here. He's a senior. I have a niece who's a junior. My cousin took over our softball program. So it's become kind of a strong family school. And like I said, we've all been really lucky to be a part of this Endicott thing. It's a great place.
That's really cool. And to your argument, you're still teaching, right? Like it's still a teaching opportunity as a coach.
Absolutely. I carry a lot of things that I learned from the classroom, even just learning how to manage different personalities, and not everybody's going to be the same. So, I used to be I was a health teacher, but you'd have all different backgrounds in that classroom. It was a diverse high school. You have all different kinds of things, and you got to learn different ways to get through to everybody, and that's really helped me in my coaching too.
Kevin, I appreciate the time. Great insight. Really appreciate the knowledge and get to know you even better than I thought I already did. Congratulations on the start. I know it's a lot ahead. You got a game on Tuesday at Regis, then back into conference play on Saturday against Wentworth. Another main school to deal with, at least this time at home, and then conference play again still rears its head. I know there's a lot to play for, but thanks for the time. Congratulations on the start. As always, we have the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuned in?
No, I really appreciate the time. Like I said, any opportunity I have to talk about our program and our players, I'd like to jump at it. And thank you for all your work and having us on. I would be remiss because I am a superstitious guy. I think the last 2 or 3 times we've talked, we followed it up with a loss. So we're hoping to turn that tide tomorrow, but can't blame you for that. Like I said, we got to make sure we're locked in and like I said, we've got off to a really strong start, but you're only as good as the game that's right ahead of you. And hopefully we've learned enough and continue to have a strong rest of the season moving forward.
No, thanks for not blaming me, because a lot of people like to bring up that Hoopsville C word every once in a while.
It's definitely been out there. I've watched it through the years, but we're going to hope not to fall into that trap. So
I'll be watching the Regis game even more now.
I didn't even tell our players I was doing this today, so I'm hoping they're not aware of it, so we can hopefully keep our focus on the right things tomorrow.
I'll see what happens in the next 24 hours, 36. I appreciate it, Kevin. Good luck. Take care. I know we'll be catching up, and I'll look forward to that when it happens.
Sounds good. And hopefully we can continue to have a strong season, and I'm asked to be on this again at a deeper time of the year where we're all playing for something special. So
absolutely.
Appreciate it. Thank you, and have a happy holidays.
Thank you. You too, Kevin. Take care of yourself.
Bye-bye.
Kevin Bettencourt joining us on the Hoopsville Hotline. That Hoopsville C word pops up every once in a while. We'll see how it plays out. I thought it might come up today, just because I invited coaches on over a week ago, and a couple of them took losses since, but they hadn't been on the show yet. When we come back, we'll talk Dave's 2 cents about scheduling and coaches who seem to like throw monkey wrenches into schedules at the last minute. We'll talk about that and the ramifications that may be coming from it. We'll also talk about tonight's Top 25 Double Take, how you can watch that show live, and so much more. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA studios. Back with more after this.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.D3Hoops.com.
The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit NABC.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC1927. That's NABC.com or NABC1927 on social media.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
In any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all.
It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us, all of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
If I lose, I'll respond with respect.
If I win, I'll back it up with humility.
If I fail, I'll rise up with honor. It's tough for us to put it all on the line.
Don't undo my hard work with poor sportsmanship.
Respect. It's the name of the game.
Coach of the Year, Administrator of the Year, All-America Team, Wade Trophy. The WBCA doesn't just honor coaches, but players, administrators, and much more. The WBCA strives to honor those who have contributed to the advancement of women's basketball. Celebrate the present, honor the past, look to the future.
I used to never really talk, ever. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. It helped me to find my voice. and now everyone else is speechless.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. It's time to wrap up the show, but not before we get a little bit more work done. Just a quick check of the tote board. And Muskingham, Shenandoah, Scranton, Endicott. With the we didn't have enough of because we used how many of them up here? We only used 2. I have to figure out why we're missing some O's, but the point being is we had to put a smiley face in there for Endicott. All those coaches done and dusted on the show. Hope you enjoyed it. Great conversations with Nathan Wahle, Melissa Smeltzer-Kraft, Ben O'Brien, and Kevin Bettencourt. If you missed any of the show, the archive will be available almost right at the conclusion of the show. We'll also upload it to our Hudl show page and hopefully figure out the solutions with that, which is why we haven't been simulcasting on Facebook for the handful of people who enjoy that. You can also listen to the podcast at a later date as well. Reminder tonight, we will be on the air with the top 25 double take. Pat Coleman and Bob Quillman to join me for the men's side. Gordon Mann and Scott Peterson on the women's side. They'll have their dubious, debatable, and deep dive selections in both. I'll participate, but I'm going to mainly manage and run the circus. But to watch that live and to have access for it for a few days, you must be a Hoopsville member. You have to go to buymeacoffee.com to do so. And when you do so, you'll head and find us on the website. You'll get to this page and scroll down and you'll see a support Hoopsville. This is where you can just put in a regular donation here. But to become a member, scroll a little bit further down and you'll see different sections you can join to gain access to the show, and includes my top 25 ballot each week. You must become a role player, which is up here. You can also be a starting 5 member, a coaching staff, etc. There's a few different selections there. Or just to simply donate. You can make that donation lump sum or make it a monthly. By being a member, you can do it monthly. There's also a discount if you do it as a yearly all-at-once subscription. Handful of people have joined and want to thank everybody who has done so. And look forward to more of you joining us. But again, that's the only way you can watch the Double Take show tonight live. Also, the off-season or the off-court podcast will be available to subscribers. My ballot is only going to be available to members. So that's how you do it. Thank you for those of you who joined in. This is a way of preserving what we do and allow us to expand. We have plans to get bigger. If this is successful this year, we will plan to do other programs, including bringing the YD3 show back and diving into a different show. But it has to be successful for us to be able to justify that time. All right. That in mind, we used to have a Hoopsville Rant most of the time. I would rant about something in Division III that was irking me and kind of went to the wayside the last few years. I have a few topics on the docket, as it were, this year. And so we're going to rebrand it and call it Dave's 2 Cents, mainly because it just sounds nice. Mainly because the penny is going out of style, right? It's no longer being made, so 2 cents is not going to happen anymore. So let's just date ourselves, shall we? Just lean all in on it. We'll call it Dave's 2 Cents. I'll come up with a cool graphic at some point about it. But we're going to talk about scheduling, and this one came to a head this year because I've seen this habit develop more and more and more. But this year I ran into it while we were trying to deal with scheduling on the D3 Hoop site, because what we will do, if you are not familiar, since most schools are with another company than we are with, we have to input a lot of schedules. And Ryan Scott does yeoman's work on this topic. So does Gordon Mann and Pat Coleman. I dabble. I don't do as much as I can or have, because in years past when we're doing schedules, I am up to my forehead in multiple jobs and can barely come up for air. Some of that may be changing. But when usually we run into a problem with some schedule, I'll jump in to at least see if I can figure it out, or I'll contact individuals and reach out and say, hey, we've got an issue here. Do you know what's going on, et cetera, et cetera. One of the things that came up is a lot of teams are scheduling more than 25 games, not counting the conference tournament or NCAA tournament. And when we broach it with those individuals, their responses are either to not respond and suddenly mysteriously change their schedule. Second option is we're aware of that. We're just going to make that game against the D3 an exhibition game. Or the third answer is, I'm in the middle of changing our schedule. That's what it's out there. I know we're going to be making some changes. And these are conversations we're having in September and October. These are not conversations we're having in May. Let's start with I'm seeing a lot more coaches who are new at a program who are going in and blowing up schedules. First off, I know a lot of coaches who have departed programs who have done their best to at least lock down most of, if not the entire schedule for the next year, so that a new coach, whether they're because they're coming in as a resignation or they're coming in following a retirement or someone who was fired, that previous coach at least tried to say, this new coach is coming in, they're going to have a lot of work to do. I'm going to at least try and get their schedule set so they don't have to worry about it. There's no ill intent. They're just trying to fill schedules. And the new coach comes in, and for whatever reason, and I have my main reason, I think, is because they don't want to be judged on that schedule. And so they don't want to come in and, let's say, have a below 500 record on the schedule that they've been presented. And so they want to change it up so that they can have a more, a better looking resume off that first schedule. They are blowing up the schedule. They're calling schools and going, I'm no longer playing that. Or worst case, they're just making changes and they're not getting in touch with their opponents until the last minute and saying, oh, by the way, we're not playing that. Or their opponent calls and goes, hey, we got a game scheduled for the 15th, but I see you have another game on the 15th. Or I haven't heard from you in a while. What's going on? Are we set? Oh, no, I'm changing my mind. We're not playing that game anymore. That's burning a lot of bridges. That is irking a lot of coaches who now are left scrambling to try and fill their schedules, or worse, cannot fill their schedules. And so they're reduced to 24 or 23 games instead of the 25, which has ramifications on NPI. It has ramifications on the conference. There's a lot of issues with that. There's a reason that conferences, most, don't want schools leaving too early without a significant financial punishment. It's because schedules. Like, if you have conference schedules are months or years in advance, it's not too hard to change it out 4 years out, 3 years out, arguably 2 years out, but it is really hard to change it a year out or the next coming season. Another one that coaches have pulled is they don't know it yet, but we're going to play that as an exhibition. Either assuming that their opponent in Division III will allow that, which is insane to me, or that they can do it in the first place. Now, I've been told, under the impression, I've seen this language written somewhere, but it has been hard to find again, and I've been told by a number of commissioners and ADs that the understanding is any game after the start of the season against Division IIIs cannot be an exhibition game, even if both sides agree to it. Now, some disagree with that. Some say, no, that can happen, that the language exists. Okay, fine. I don't think it can happen. But if it can, you need both sides to agree to that. And the number of coaches are just like, oh, we're just going to play that as an exhibition. And then at some point, you got to have a conversation with the opponent. Because this isn't D3 versus D1. This isn't Pitt-Scranton, where Scranton can have it as an exhibition, but Pitt has to have it as a D1. Or Hopkins-Morgan State, not as a D1, have to have it as a game. This isn't that scenario. These are two D3s. Two D3s, either it's a game or it's not, no matter what the rule is. It's either a game or it's not. It can't be a hybrid. And by the way, this has to be decided on before the game starts. So if you are a D3 who's screwing around with your schedule and then you call your other D3 and go, by the way, we're going to make it an exhibition, that D3 either has to accept that or drop you. And if you're hoping they'll drop you, that's a bit of a jerk move. And there's a lot of coaches, and not just new coaches. I mean, coaches who are experienced, who are going to other programs. I had this scenario come up. Talking to some other coaches are like, yeah, They did that with our conference. They did that when I dealt with them. Or they screw around with non-conference schedules all the time. And I don't know what the end run of this is. Is it the ego thing that you don't want a bad record? Do you think the athletics director is going to punish you for having a bad season the first year on a schedule you did not create? Like, I don't understand this. I think it's bad ethics. I think it's bad morality. I think it's bad work. Listen, you have colleagues out there. If you want a game in the future, you are burning bridges against opponents who had been willing to play you. And I have talked to a few now that are starting to put clauses in place. If you back out of a game, there is a financial hit for that, because this is getting a little crazy. We shouldn't be having conversations in October about whether a team has too many or not enough games, and whether a team's decided to make that an exhibition or not, because either they screwed up their scheduling, or they decided they don't want to take on the heavyweights, and I'm using that term wide open, in their eyes. It may not even be that. They just don't want that game to be a game. I know of coaches who aren't returning emails. And it's not just not returning emails to me. I'm low on the totem pole when it comes to this. We're just trying to make sure the D3 Hoops schedule is accurate. I'm talking not returning emails to other coaches, because I've had other coaches say, yeah, I've been trying to get a hold of that individual for 3 months. I have not heard from them. And that includes phone calls. Here's what I'm going to say. If you are a new coach to a program and you have got a schedule, go with it. I don't see, unless you can come up with some really logical reasons why that schedule should not be played as is, that you need to make changes. Listen, there are times when budgets get cut and now you may not be able to go to some far-flung place to play games. I understand there are those scenarios. But if the previous coach is putting together a schedule with the same mentality you are, or you should have, that schedule should be good to go. Not to mention the fact, are you trying to improve the program? Because if you're trying to improve the program, one of the ways to do it is not to play easy opponents and just rack up wins. Because as anybody will tell you, and we have seen year in and year out, teams with gaudy win-loss records get absolutely smoked when they go and play good teams, because the win-loss record means nothing. If you are a good team who deserves to be competing, and that's what you want to do, if you want to compete for conference championships, you want to compete in the NCAA tournament, if that is your goal, you can't shy away from opponents, no matter how good or bad you think your program is. And sometimes these coaches are coming in and blowing up schedules because they don't want to be judged, or they don't want it to be challenging for their team. Who knows? Stick with the schedule you're given. If there's extenuating circumstances, get in touch with the coaches on those other teams and explain what is going on. And stop pretending that this is some absolutely complicated nuclear formula, and that you're coming in with the greatest answer since sliced bread, and you're going to change the schedule, and you're going to find all these great things. Stop. You're only hurting your student athletes in the long run. You're only hurting your professional relationship with other coaches. It's embarrassing. And by the way, know the rules. Some of these individuals should know the rules, because they're not just coaches. Know the scheduling rules for Division III in the sport. And that goes for administrators who just let coaches run amok with their scheduling. I think they're going to see a lot more schedules that are going to have financial penalties for backing out of games. Is that fair? Maybe not. Conferences have them for backing out of conferences. If you commit and sign that you're going to be there, unless there's extenuating circumstances that are completely understandable and logical, you should live up to that contract. And it was embarrassing how many times I ran into it this September and October. And I'm not saying it's happened dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of times. But there's a trickle down, because if X team has screwed up their schedule, it impacts their Y opponent. The Y opponent now is scrambling to find another opponent. Like, it starts to trickle. Maybe it changes their travel plans. Maybe it changes their mentality. Maybe they can no longer play on a particular weekend because they're now trying to figure out something else, and now they got to play on this weekend when they told everybody else they couldn't play. Like, there is a trickle down. And again, you're going to have to look those coaches eventually in the face at a convention or out at recruiting or something. And that's now your reputation. I'm really getting frustrated with scheduling in Division III. It's not that hard. Go out there, challenge yourself. If you've said you're going to play somebody, play them. If you're a first-year head coach, whether you're a rookie head coach or you're coming into a program first year and you've got a schedule in front of you, you better have a darn good reason you're not playing it. And by the way, you shouldn't be making these decisions in September and October. If you're a late hired coach, I'm sorry, that's the schedule. You shouldn't be hired in September and say, I'm blowing the schedule up. Absolutely not. You shouldn't be hired in July and be blowing up the schedule. I'd argue you shouldn't be blowing up the schedule if you're hired in February either. If a coach has left you a schedule, run with it. Unless, again, hey, listen, we don't have money to send you to that tournament anymore. All right, well, that I can't help. Anyway, I've rambled a little bit on that, but I'm hoping we can fix that out. I got some other ones we can drop our 2 cents on. I'll quickly touch on video in Division III. Football in the opening round. Well, all their games on ESPN Plus for the second year now. That means all web stream productions from the schools are on ESPN Plus. The opening weekend went horribly. Now, last year we had very little lead time for schools to be aware of it. This year we had a full year to know about it, and I was stunned that half the institutions had issues on the opening weekend. When I watched, and I already put a video out on this, so I won't rehash 2 minutes of this, but when I watched, those issues were not ESPN because they weren't having issues nationally. They weren't having issues with D2. They weren't having issues in D1. And what I was watching was these imagine a tube. This is the tube you want to stream out on, right? And the stream is maybe this big in that tube, so you've got room around the stream. I saw that tube getting squeezed by IT, and so that stream now is getting squeezed, and there's not enough room to get out. And when that happens, you get breakups in the water supply, right? That's what I was seeing. When you can hear audio but not see video, there's a bandwidth problem. And a lot of the times it's because IT is throttling, is what I use the term, or squeezing that signal and trying to let less and less out as a safety mechanism. You can talk to IT people about it. I don't know all the right answers, but for example, if China is hacking your system, you don't want them to get it easier. You want to slow that stream of information heading out the door until you can figure out what's going on. That's the best analogy I can give you, but I don't know if that's a correct analogy. So the problem was a problem before it even got to ESPN, and then I was told there were several D3s that had never called into ESPN like they were supposed to an hour before the game. And then for those who did, there was at least one situation when ESPN had the wrong credentials. That's on them for sure. And it's also on ESPN because they didn't have enough people in place to be monitoring streams to realize that games were having issues. There's no excuse for that, in my opinion. They should be flagged even the hour prior, going, hey, we haven't heard from them. What's going on? And then, to be honest, I even heard of some places that were giving erroneous information as to who to contact. Individuals were off that day, not on site that day, numbers that weren't in the press box. Sometimes we shoot ourselves in the foot and then we try and blame others. A lot happened that was better the second weekend. I applaud all those D3s who did it well. I am told that IT was more involved in most of those campuses, which is also a good thing. I think that's got to be part and parcel. I think we do want to let D3s know further in advance what is to be expected, not just some paperwork to fill out, but what does it mean, how to get your IT involved, what we need to expect, all of that. And I think we can move on and not have these issues as much in moving forward. But D3's also got to stay informed with each other, by the way. You got to stay informed. Can't be a surprise that we have an ESPN broadcast for football. We're in year 2 of this. Now, it won't be happening as much. I think we're fine. I think this past weekend was great. We won't have as many issues as we move forward with the football tournament. But in case any of the other tournaments end up, a lot of tournaments end up on Hudl, which is not where most people are streaming. Like me, you might be streaming to Flow, you might be streaming to YouTube, you might be streaming to X, might be streaming to Y. Now you got to go to Hudl. You've got to make the due diligence to get that to work because we want our tournaments to shine. And we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot for these mistakes. Glad to see things improve for the second week. I'm disappointed some people out there wanted to take some excuses at face value. Let's just realize there's a lot more involved in these things. There are multiple pieces at play that all had responsibilities. I think we figured those out, and we're moving forward, and I think things are looking great. And I'm looking forward to basketball being on Hudl again this year, as soccer and volleyball were. And a reminder, the ESPN Plus will have men's and women's Final Fours and championships, and men's Elite Eight Final Four and championship in basketball this year. And with that, we'll sign off. When we follow us on social to find out if we're on the air Thursday. Worst case, we're back on Monday, noon Eastern. Looking forward to a lot of great guests. Don't forget, tonight, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, Top 25 Double Take. I'm going to go finish my Top 25, in fact. And we will hear from Pat Coleman, Bob Quillman, Scott Peterson, and Gordon Mann. You have to be a Hoopsville member. You have to be a Hoopsville member to listen to that show live and watch the archive for at least the first few days. So don't forget about that. And with that, we sign off. Thanks to our guests from Muskingham, Nathan Wahle, from Shenandoah, Melissa Smeltzer-Kraft, from Scranton, Ben O'Brien, and from Endicott, Kevin Bettencourt. Thanks you to all the sports information directors and staff who helped us, whether it was organizing interviews or getting content to us, etc. We appreciate the time that they took to do that, especially over the holidays. And thank you for tuning in, everybody. I am Dave McHugh. You've been watching Hoopsville from the WBCA studios. Thanks to D3Hoops.com. We'll be back again tonight with the Top 25 Double Take. Looking forward to all of you joining us for that. You've been listening to Hoopsville, presented by WBCA and D3Hoops.com. See you tonight.